Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Awesome Sunday Show. Connor back again.
Pat here.
And we're going to be finishing up our season 1 cap of Daredevil. So, Pat, before we get into finishing season 1, I'm about 4 episodes in season 2. Pat finished it.
I stayed up 13 hours straight to finish it. I finished it about we're recording on Saturday. I finished it about 5:30 or 6 o'clock in the morning
Yeah.
on Saturday. Oh, but it was worth it.
Yeah, I'm probably
It
going to
was
finish it
fucking
tomorrow.
worth it. Not to give anything away, but I personally think that season 2, as I expected, is better than season 1, which is hard to do. I mean, critically on Rotten Tomatoes right now, it's at like 75%. But if you read their reviews, they're not really negative.
They're just not as thrilled as the first season. And like I get it. I haven't finished it yet, but I kind of get what they're saying. A lot of critics are they really liked the character Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin, which rightfully so. He was amazing. But I just the other characters are so interesting as well.
Honestly, I think that John Bernthal alone, even if they didn't include Elektra, was a very, very worthy inclusion in Fisk's place.
Yes.
John Bernthal, for this entire season, was absolutely amazing. And like, if you need any proof of that, like without watching the entire thing, just watch episodes 3 and 4, and just the monologues, the dialogue on the rooftop in season 3, and then there's one scene that takes in season 4, episode 4, takes place in a cemetery. That monologue hits you hard, and you can tell like this guy deserves like an Emmy for his performance.
Yeah, I agree.
For just like those small pieces alone. And then like they did Elektra really well. I think it was another great conclusion. They handled it well. So while they wanted just another Wilson Fisk, I think that the characters they chose to include in place of him were more than satisfactory.
Yeah, I agree. But we'll get into that.
Yes, we will. But yeah, go fucking watch season 2. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's so good so far, and I know I'm gonna have it finished by tomorrow night. Like it's just I'm kind of itching to watch it like at ASAP. But
yeah,
of course.
And
but
like if you're gonna look at ratings on Rotten Tomato for it, look at the fan ratings over the critical ones.
Yeah, but even the critical ratings, like the Rotten reviews, like aren't.
They're not really negative.
Yeah, I almost.
They're all the thing is, I wish Fisk was back. That's it.
Yeah.
But they don't criticize anything other than like else really.
Yeah, and it's just like sometimes like as I love Rotten Tomatoes because it saved me so much money from the movies.
Mm-hmm.
But like the one thing about Rotten Tomatoes sometimes is like, for some reason like critics will give like an average review and it somehow comes out as rotten.
Yeah.
Like Gladiator has like a 70-something% on Rotten Tomatoes, and that movie is not a 70-something%. But then like you look at some of the reviews and it's just like they give it like a decent rating that I would consider fresh.
Yeah. And
but
they just don't
a lot of critics don't go by score.
Their algorithm is really off in a lot of cases. Well, their algorithm is not perfect.
It's not perfect, but I don't expect it to be perfect.
Yeah, there's the way their scoring system works is a little off, like in terms of giving it a full score, and the way they factor that into its percentage. But like it doesn't make sense to me how Supergirl has like a mid to high, it's either 95 or 98%, I forget, has that high of a rating for season 1 compared to Daredevil season 2, because Supergirl, I mean, it's gotten better, but it started off, the first 6 episodes were god awful.
Yeah, it's just like, again, like not a lot of critics. So, and I actually prefer reviews that don't have scores sometimes because I like to read what they say. I'm not just scrolling down, but I like a mix of both. But yeah, like a lot of critics just don't do a score; they just write a review of what they thought, and it's like, I feel like. They put a negative review for something that wasn't completely negative? They just had criticisms.
Yeah.
Because there's movies that I love, but I have major criticisms about. Like there's Citizen Kane, which is probably one of the best movies ever made, but there's a huge plot hole. No one ever hears him say Rosebud, and then the whole movie is about finding out what Rosebud is about. But that movie is somehow the best movie ever made, but rightfully so. It's awesome, but
Actually, in the screenplay, they addressed that.
They do,
The butler was in the room when he said it.
but they don't show it in the movie.
They just don't show it in the movie. Yeah.
But that doesn't matter.
And technically, it's still a plot hole, but yeah, Daredevil is.
It's just like, yeah, there's certain things I'm just like, you gotta read the review, and I just feel like sometimes it's not a proper representation.
Like, it's not. I mean, it's almost perfect. Like, yeah, there's some things that,
it's as best as it could be.
Yeah, it's honestly, in my opinion, better than season 1. I would honestly give it it should be a 98 or 99%, easily.
I'd give it 100, but I mean,
well, I mean this season, compared to a 75, which is bullshit. But
yeah,
but whatever.
Don't let that rating
haven't watched
disappoint you.
Yeah,
that's the point.
Just look at the fan rating for that, and you'll understand, because comic book fans, much like fans of anything, that have, like people who are fans of the books versus the movies or whatever, if there's a source material to it, they're much more critical of the adapted material. So if you see a really good fan rating from especially for some a vocal community like that, then trust me, it's good.
One thing I do want to say before we get into starting from episodes 9 to 13 on Daredevil season 1 is one thing I really noticed about Marvel's TV series is that they have much more interesting villains than they do in the movies. The movies,
yeah, because it works out for them because they can build it up over 13 episodes, or in case of Agents,
and it's not a criticism of the movies, because I really like how the movies the main problem with a lot of superhero movies that don't work is that they concentrate so much on the villain, but it's a character is going to either die or be defeated. Yeah. So it's because it's not a villain most of the time it's not a villain like the Joker, who is going to come back, and he's incredible. Yeah, most of the time it's a villain that's semi interesting, but he's going to die. And it's just that's why a lot of people.
That's one of the problems of the MCU. Their villains, more of their villains have died than not.
And also too, but that's not really a criticism for me, because it's I know the villain's going to be defeated, so focus on the hero and building up the character of the hero, and they've done very well. But in the TV series, it's great for villains because there's 13 episodes.
Yeah, they can really build in their backstory. The way they did with Fisk and Kilgrave on Jessica Jones.
Oh, Kilgrave was awesome.
Two of the best villains
I think Fisk is cooler, but I love Kilgrave too.
Yeah. They had 13 episodes to build that up. So that's 13 hours of material to build them up. And they didn't fully, they don't really build them up all over 13 episodes. Maybe 5 episodes in or something. You get bits and pieces of them, especially with Fisk in this first season. You don't really find out who they're talking about or see him for quite a few episodes.
If you don't know the comics.
Yeah.
Which sometimes I wish I didn't know a lot, going into certain things. That's why I loved Guardians of the Galaxy. I barely knew about Guardians of the Galaxy before I went and saw that movie. That's why I enjoyed it so much. Not saying I didn't enjoy this, but I kind of know what's going on.
Yeah.
That's what I felt about Jessica Jones, though. I never was really into Jessica Jones. I just watched the show, and I was like, oh, I really don't know much about her. And that, and I was
it
was
does
surprising.
Have its benefits.
Yeah, it does. That's why I'm glad. I don't. It's cool to not follow every single thing before you get into it. It's okay.
Yeah,
and it's at least for being surprised.
But that's why, a lot of the TV shows works more than the movies for general population, because they're learning as they're going along. They got between 13 to 20 something episodes, depending on which superhero series it is.
Yeah,
that they can get familiar with it over a longer period of time.
Right.
But and I think that's why Daredevil works for more than just comic book fans, because it functions really well as an action drama type show as it is. But anyway, let's get into the episode recaps.
Right. So we left off at 8. We were supposed to do 8 and 9, but I was falling asleep the last podcast.
Yeah, he was being a little bitch.
Luckily,
he has a cup of coffee right now.
I got coffee, so I'm not. Dude, my eye, last podcast, I was literally fighting to stay awake, and you're like, we got to end this.
Yeah. He was like Justin when you take Justin to the movies.
All right. That's true for that night, but that in my defense, that never happens. I was just super tired.
You're right.
But yeah, okay, so let's start off episode 9. Speak of the Devil. Hint, hint.
Yeah.
Um,
Nice little play on words there.
last episode, Wilson Fisk reveals himself to the public, which actually kind of benefits him.
Yeah, it helps him a lot, and it really
In the
hurts.
beginning, it helps him a lot.
Yeah, in the beginning, it helps him a lot, and it really hurts Karen, Ben Urich, and Matt because they're all trying to. Well, Karen and Ben are trying to expose him already,
Right?
Like for all the corrupt and fucked up things he's doing, and Matt's trying to catch him in the act, and basically do the same thing, basically expose him. But he brought himself out. Obviously, he didn't give away the shady things he was doing, but he brought himself into the public, and he brought himself into a good light. So now the public already has a good perception of him, which was a really smart move on his part, but it really hurts the story that Karen and Ben were building up. And the one thing is that Matt benefited from it is he realized that Fisk is behind so many things that have been happening. Like in this episode where I don't even remember who this person is, but Cardenas is killed by a junkie, but Fisk set it up.
Yes.
And like now he's connecting the dots to what Fisk is actually responsible for. So Matt benefited from that a little bit, but it really, kind of was a real problem for the.
It set him back a lot
characters.
because it's like when you're trying to out somebody and they out themselves publicly, but in a positive way.
Yeah, he made himself look like a golden boy, pretty much.
Right. And he made him. Yeah, he was portrayed as the hero that the city needed.
Yeah.
I hate saying that, but because it's so Dark Knight-ish.
Yeah.
But which sets them back. So the whole like Union Allied thing was like down the shitter.
Yeah, their case against him was severely damaged.
Not even. I wouldn't say damaged. I would just say it was set back significantly.
Yeah,
because they still use certain things.
Yeah, but now they have to try harder to prove those things. It's a better way to put it. But the way this episode starts, actually, and throughout the episode, is one of my favorite fights this season has done for all their fight choreography, which is between Matt and Nobu.
Yeah, that was so sick.
Oh
Those like hook things
God.
he throws.
Yeah. He's got those like hook, knife, chain thing, whatever it is.
It was so. It kind of reminded me of like it was very like Kratos God of War meets like Samurai. Like
that's a good way to put it. Actually.
Yeah, I was just it was badass. Like straight up like it was because you don't see weapons like that.
Good fight.
Yeah.
Because Nobu's a crazy badass ninja, and he represents. Kind of, we don't really know for sure, but he's basically on the side of the Yakuza, which is the Japanese mafia. Which
they make the mafia look like daycare
pussies.
Teachers.
Yeah, the Yakuza are some of the worst people in the world.
They're the type of people like the mafia would just like when you watch movies like The Godfather, like they'll just shoot you in the head and you'll be dead. We'll go like they'll kill you, they'll shoot you in the head, kill you, and then put you like in the car compactor.
Yeah.
Like whereas the Yakuza will tie you down and then put you in the car compactor and watch you get squished to death.
Yeah, or worse. They're very fucked up individuals. But the Yakuza are part of Fisk's group. Along with Madame Gao, Union Allied, and the Russians. Well, not the Russians anymore, but they're part of that that power group. But I liked how they broke up that fight throughout the episode. They started off with it.
Yeah.
Then they advance the plot a little bit. Then they get back to it.
Keep
going with that.
I'm not gonna lie. I was a little nervous when they started doing that. I was like, oh, they're really breaking up the action. But throughout the episode, it was the editing was. It actually served the episode positively, especially towards the end, because as like the episode progresses, like the more the episode progresses. And you start to realize like how deep they are into like Wilson Fisk's like crime syndicate and that whole thing, where it's like you get to see like how much danger they're in is how much. Then like it cuts to Matt getting more and more hurt.
Right.
So it's kind of like it's I don't want to say it's symbolism, but like it was intentional.
Yeah.
And like you get that at the end of the episode, and I was like, oh wow, that actually makes sense that they edited it that way, and it serves the story better.
Yeah, the way they did it was really good, and Nobu fucked Matt up.
Yeah, and I love that they do that. That like Matt will lose.
Yeah,
and like they don't hold it back, and like because he's not perfect, and that's what I like. He's not a Superman. He doesn't win every fight he's in.
Yeah,
yeah, and like. But he still comes out a winner, like in some way.
Right.
He has to find a way to get it, like to win.
right. And like Nobu with those knife hooks. I want to know what the weapon's called, but I don't know. But shreds Matt to pieces, basically.
Yeah.
You just see these huge, deep wounds from them. But Matt ends up defeating him because Nobu gets set on fire and falls out a window, or he pushes him out a window, whatever. So. Matt has a no killing rule, but he technically didn't break it with this, even though Nobu died, because Nobu, while Matt, kind of set him up for it.
Yeah.
It's Nobu's own fault. He got set on fire and then fell out the building.
Yeah. It is kind of like drawing the line, but like I liked it in Daredevil because you don't really know. It makes you guess like. And I still guess to this day, I'm like, did he really, like, was it intentional, but he tried to make it not intentional, so he didn't break his rule? Because my huge criticism with Batman Begins is how Batman doesn't have the no-killing rule, but he goes, I don't have to, he's like, I'm not going to kill you, but I don't have to save you. It's like, dude, you killed him. Like,
yeah, you're basically responsible.
Like, if someone's about to get ran over by a truck and I don't save them, I killed them. And I could have saved them. I pretty much killed them.
Yeah, but I think it was a good physical representation of Matt trying not to cross that line.
Exactly.
His struggle with not crossing that line.
It made sense when you watch it because you see how much he struggles. Whereas, like, in Batman Begins, like, just because like that's the biggest comparison I can draw it to, I was like dude, you could have got him out of there. Like, you clearly won. Like, you won that fight, whereas Matt was losing.
Yeah. It was a really good physical representation of that struggle that he has. And then at the end of the episode, Fisk ends up confronting Matt and nearly kills him. He beat the fuck out of Matt, and which actually leads to something huge happening because Matt ends up escaping, gets into his apartment, and Foggy's already there and collapses. And then Foggy finds out that Matt's the Man in Black.
Yeah.
Which sets up huge conflict in the next few episodes. Specifically going into episode 10, titled Nelson vs. Murdoch, which, it play on, Nelson and Murdoch, attorney at law.
Yeah.
Because Foggy straight up questions him. He's like, are you really blind?
Which is a legitimate question.
When you find out your friend who's been blind for however long you've known him actually turns out to be this fucking badass vigilante karate kicking people.
When he asked that, I couldn't help it, but I immediately went back to the Daredevil movie with Ben Affleck and Jennifer Gardner. Where she's like, when the scene she asks, like, hey, are you really blind? He goes, yeah. And he goes, watch your step. I'm like,
yeah.
Oh, wow. Like, no, I still won't believe you. And she's like, oh, wow. Like, that's amazing. Like, no, you dumb bitch. Like, he's clearly blind. Like, I mean, we know he's blind, but like, no, like, if someone did that to me, like, you're not blind. But like, Charlie Cox sells it so well because he looks blind when he doesn't have his sunglasses on.
Yeah, he trained, I think it was something like 6 months or something. He really did train, even though like he trained to fight blind, and he observed this blind man and like shadowed him to see how he acts through this disability and stuff. So he nailed it down very, very well.
Yeah, it's his delivery is what sells it because it's like he can say I am blind, and I'm like, and you look at him, you're like, yeah, that guy is blind.
Yeah.
Whereas like, hey, watch your step is not very convincing of me thinking you're blind.
I know. Yeah, so obviously Foggy's just like blindsided by this. Understandably, I would, if I was his friend and known this guy was blind for however long, I wouldn't believe it either. And I'd be really offended. So this sets up a lot of tension between them.
You see a lot of flashbacks to the law school too with them. It's like when was that in this episode or the next episode?
They do it in both, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Which I love the college flashbacks, the law school flashbacks they have.
Yeah, avocados at law.
Yes. That was pretty funny.
And then, like, Nelson, Foggy goes against him for Matt taking the law into his own hands when they're supposed to be lawyers and, going through the legal system to take care of things. But Matt's justifying what he does, but Foggy doesn't really agree with it.
Well, it's kind of hypocritical in Foggy's eyes, and he's not wrong. One thing I love that they don't make him look like an idiot. He's like, again, 2004 Daredevil movie. As much as I love Jon Favreau, he's a bumbling idiot in that movie.
Yeah.
And like I like how Foggy in this series is like he can, especially in season 2, you see it how good of a lawyer he really is.
Yeah.
He brings up some really good points again from Matt. It's like you can't do this. Like this it goes against exactly what you work for.
Yeah, it goes against what you were sworn to do.
Yeah.
Pretty much because like they're supposed to let the system work. They're supposed to help the system, but by helping people, but not, go against criminals. And especially in this one case that Foggy brought up against this pedophile, Matt with no evidence attacked this pedophile or this pedophile rapist with no evidence. And
the pedophile was raping his daughter, I think, right?
Yeah, he was raping his daughter, who was his young daughter, which this guy deserves to be put down. But
that's the type of guy I would pull a trigger.
Yeah, but Foggy goes and uses that against Matt because you have no evidence, and then you took it upon yourself to do that. How do you know he was really doing it? Blah blah blah. So Foggy was upset to find out his friend did this. Was in disbelief that his blind friend is capable of these being a fucking crime fighter, like these physical feats that a blind person shouldn't be able to do.
Like he does things that normal people
we couldn't even do.
Yeah, we can't do that. I could train. I could move to the mountains and train with Master Goken from Street Fighter.
Yeah,
and I would come back and not be as powerful as Matt Murdock. Like he's that good.
And then he's also going against what their mission is
themselves,
and going against the system that they've worked in and are trying to work in and do it honestly. And Foggy's really, really upset by him.
Right, because it does make Matt look like a hypocrite in Foggy's eyes.
Yeah, and Foggy's completely justified in it.
Right. You do feel for him, and like I'm so glad that they made Foggy like a character, not something.
Because early on he serves more as a comic relief best friend in a bunch of ways, but they show that he's really much more than that.
Right.
And they don't show him they show him that he's not a pushover. Because like a lot of comic relief characters are pushovers. They're like if this was any other like generic comic relief character, they'll be like, oh yeah, okay, that's fine, I get it, it's whatever. But
like,
he
derp.
Exactly. But it shows that he has a strong moral conviction, and he will not allow his friend to lie to him like that. And not only that, but that his best friend is putting himself in such serious danger.
I think, and that's the point that I think Foggy cares
that's
the most at.
Yeah.
It's like
the nail in the coffin.
I think he can kind of get past certain aspects of he can kind of get past certain aspects of him being blind and this awesome crime fighter, but it's like, dude, like we run a business together, and like you are my best friend, and yet I didn't know every night you were risking your life.
Yeah. And your point about Foggy evolving more in the second season, like in the court system, to show he's a really good lawyer, is a really good point, because he evolves so much. And we're in episode 10. In the next 3 episodes after this, he evolves a lot. But in season 2, he's like a completely different person, and you can see how much he's grown, while still not approving of it, but has become accepting of it, and it adds more depth to him, I think.
Yeah.
And I think they handled that really well, and props to the actor that played him. show he's more than just a Bash brother. Eldon Henson.
Was it out of the Bash Brothers? Was he the one that invented the knuckle puck in Mighty Ducks? Or shows the knuckle puck? By the way, you can't do a knuckle puck in real life.
Yeah, it's not possible.
It's not possible. Stop trying to do it, 90s kids.
Yeah, I think he's the one who was like really good at it. I don't remember exactly. I haven't seen that movie in a while, but yeah, he's the Bash brother.
Yeah, he was the ringer.
Yeah. Yeah, so Claire comes into the picture again, helps him out. Let's see. So this led to Foggy actually leaving their firm. And their firm is literally just those two. They're the two lawyers, and then Karen's the assistant, pretty much.
Who, like, I don't know how they pay her.
The thing is, they don't pay her.
Yeah.
Because she could never pay them, so they really can't pay her.
Yeah, it's such a, I don't know how, like, so many TV shows in New York. Like, New York is a really expensive place to live. We live like we live an hour and a half train ride away from New York, 2-hour drive from the city. That place is we've been there plenty of times. That place is expensive to live.
The cost of living there is very high.
Yeah, how does Kramer live there for 8 seasons of Seinfeld without a job? Beyond me. And it's just like, that's the one thing. It's like, they do mention how broke they are, and like,
they're still going out to the bar.
Yeah. All the
time.
I'm like, dude, like, save your
and
money.
Matt has a really nice apartment.
Yeah, and it mentions that he gets it at a killer discount because of the view. But it's like, dude, like, that's fine, but I could have the cheapest apartment ever. But if I don't have income,
still could be more expensive per month than living in one of our homes.
Yeah.
That we have here.
I guarantee you, like, the rent on whatever their business is more than my parents pay a month for the mortgage.
Yeah,
like,
it's got to be. And and it's the shittiest little thing. It just shows anywhere in New York, whether it's the shittiest little apartment or shittiest little office, still fucking expensive.
Yeah,
and all the food, everything essential there is more expensive.
It just makes me think of like every other series. Like, how does Chandler and Joey survive?
Yeah, like you can
like in Friends. I don't like that's so, or Two Broke Girls. That show sucks, but like
that show's fucking terrible. But yeah, like their firm isn't making money.
Yeah.
But, it takes a lot to live there. Anyway, that's where the suspension of disbelief comes in. Not that this blind guy is, a crazy good fighter. It's that all three of them are able to afford to live in New York while making
that's
zero
way more
money.
Unbelievable than that aspect whatsoever.
Yeah. So that's a big, big deal. And it was nice to see Claire again, played by Rosario Dawson. She's a really good character.
Night nurse.
Yeah, night nurse.
Do they ever say night nurse? No.
No, I don't think so.
I think it's kind of.
I think they kind of reference it because all she works is night shifts. I think they say she's the night nurse, but specifically referring to her working at night, not giving her a name.
I'm kind of glad they did that because you have to call Daredevil.
Yeah,
but like,
night nurse is kind of a dumb name.
That it's not a dumb name in a comic book.
Yeah,
but
in a show, it's pretty stupid.
Right. There's certain mediums where certain things work. And, like, dude, if they, like, called her night nurse, I'd be like, no, stop. Like, the show is so good. Don't do it. And they didn't. And I was like, it's good. Like, I'm glad they didn't. I don't remember if they did or not, but now, like, looking back, from what you told me, I do remember.
Yeah, they didn't give it to her as, like, a code name. It's just like, she's the night nurse because she works the night shift. That's basically what.
That makes sense.
That's how it is, yeah. And then other things to happen this episode, Ben's extension on his wife's hospital stay is denied. And if, leading up to this, you see his wife is really, really sick, and he's been fighting to get her extension stayed, increased, because it costs a lot of money to have somebody stay in the hospital, especially in New York, where everything's fucking expensive.
Yeah. But you know what? He has a legitimate job.
Yeah, he has a legitimate job, but he's still not making a lot. But he gets an offer for a better paying job, which, he wants because then he could better afford to take care of his wife.
Mm-hmm.
So he decides to give up the investigation into Union Allied and Fisk, which, devastates Karen because Karen is still, at the forefront in this, and Union Allied pretty much ruined her life.
Right.
Not that she had a great one, but she could have, or the new life that she had, because we still don't know her background, but we just know it's not good.
Yeah.
but she makes out this huge discovery and convinces Ben to change his mind, because she finds Fisk's mother in a nursing home, and she reveals to him that Fisk killed his dad, like fucking brutally murdered his dad when he was a kid.
And that scene is insane.
It was insane. Yeah, it was a big fucking deal.
And that whatever kid they got to play like Little Fisk
did a great job.
Did awesome. I totally believed that kid was like tortured and like
yeah. So that, and it's good because it's just another insight into the mind of Fisk and how he became who he is, and displays his brutal personality. Because we've seen him brutally beat and decapitate the one Russian brother, but it shows just the amount of rage he has and what he's capable of doing once that rage takes over him, like when he almost killed Matt. And then it ends with Fisk throwing a gala to raise money for the victims of the bombings, and then a lot of the guests there in Mariana are poisoned, and I think Vanessa got poisoned, Fisk's love interest. That's who Mariana's her last name. My apologies. Which he loses it on because she wasn't supposed to get, because they poisoned like the champagne, and she wasn't supposed to get that glass. So yeah, he rightfully so flips out and then has to save her life pretty much.
It's one of the few things you're kind of like rooting for him for.
Yeah.
Even though like he is kind of crappy.
He's a huge piece of shit, but you do find things to feel sympathetic with him about.
Right.
Which I think is a really good testament to the writing of the show and to the performance of Vincent D'Onofrio as him. Because Kingpin is a despicable person, but between his father abusing him and his mother, and the only person who's ever actually he's ever actually loved, nearly dying, you can see like where he's coming from in a little bit, but he's still a huge piece of shit.
Yeah, he's a terrible person, but like there is an ounce of sympathy.
And they did the same in Jessica Jones. They did a similar thing with Kilgrave, showing what led to him getting his powers and how he was treated as a kid. Mm-hmm. He's a horrible human being, probably worse than Fisk, but there are things that you can feel sympathetic with him about, and that's hard to do.
This is for me. I'm not sympathetic for Kilgrave. I'm more sympathetic for Fisk. Kilgrave, I have more of an understanding of what he does. Fisk, I'm a little more sympathetic because there is like an ounce of like there is some qualities of like kindness and like wanting to treat certain people. Yeah. There's people, there's characters in the show that he does show kindness towards.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, but if you're in his way, he's gonna. Yeah.
He thinks he has the best intentions of people in mind, and he genuinely believes that. It's not like he's deluding himself into it, even though it is a delusion for the most part. But yeah, like he's trying to do good in his own way, even though he's not going about it the right way.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's not afraid to take out those who are interrupting him. Much like the one Russian brother. Jesus, that was brutal.
He embarrassed him.
All right, Connor. So why don't you take the lead on episode 11, The Path of the Righteous?
Okay. Episode 11, Path of the Righteous. So, Matt is still recovering from the brutal injuries he got in episode 9.
Yeah, Claire's still taking care of him.
Yeah, he's
still rightfully so because of how bad he was fucked up. And then Claire says she's leaving for a while, so there goes one of Matt's.
There goes his nurse.
Yeah, the person who actually physically takes care of him.
Yeah, and then Matt actually finds Melvin Potter. He actually plays a good role in season 2 and early, but
Yes.
you get him in here, and he's kind of like a mentally challenged.
He's slow.
He's very slow, but he's smart with engineering and designing.
Yeah. Yeah. He makes these basically the suits for Fisk that they're like these protective suits. So he may be slow in certain ways, but he's
valuable and
very crafty. And he actually in the comics as a character, he plays the Guardian, he doesn't have powers, but he's like between the suits he makes and his engineering skills and crafting skills is able to make these great weapons and materials that he gets to use to his advantage. And actually in the background there's some Easter eggs to like that character. They show like bits and pieces of the things he makes, like some armor and stuff.
Yeah, and so like you get an idea. So hence we get. Hey, can you do this for me? So what happens is Matt talks to Potter, and he goes and he wants him to make him a suit to prevent him from getting hurt in certain ways, as far as like not getting stabbed. But Melvin's kind of like reluctant to do it.
Yeah, understandably so, because he works for Fisk.
Yeah, he understands. He's mentally slow, but he's not dumb, and like he's not dumb in a way of where he doesn't understand how powerful Fisk is and what he could do to him. So they strike a deal pretty much. He's like, Matt says, "Hey, listen, I'll protect you, and I'll make sure Fisk stops hurting people in exchange for this."
Yeah, and his wife.
Oh yeah, and his wife. And you get that in season 2 where he brings it up again. And then Karen goes to visit Fisk's mother to get the story about when how Fisk killed his father. But it's considered unreliable because of Wilson Fisk's mother's mental condition.
Yeah, she basically has Alzheimer's or dementia of some sort.
Yeah, something like that.
So you can't trust a word she says because you don't know if it's a part of her condition that she's making, not really making it up because she's not intentionally, telling, like lying about a story.
Right.
It's just she doesn't know. Like you can't prove that she knows it's real or not.
Yeah, because she could have a warped sense of reality.
Exactly.
And which this seems good in their favor somewhat, but it ends up not being too.
Yeah, it's them. Karen and Ben going to visit his mom didn't really turn out well. Fisk is less than happy, I would say, when he finds out.
Dude, that is like, it's insane how it's actually pretty scary because when they get Fisk is informed that they went to visit his mother in the hospital, and like, if you think him freaking out about one of the Russians embarrassing him on a date, which, dude, in all honesty, that had to have been his first date ever.
Yeah, probably.
Because he's so weird. Pretty much when Ben is writing the story, you get this shadowy figure behind and you hear this voice. And did I skip over? I think I might miss it.
You skipped some things.
I definitely did, yeah.
What that happens in the next episode. In this,
whoops.
Fisk finds out, or Wesley finds out from the nursing home that somebody visited him. He lets Fisk know. Fisk hasn't left Vanessa's side and doesn't want to leave her side, but he has a really good flip out before he tells Wesley to take care of it. And this is where, like, one of my favorite parts from Wesley, because I love that character. I think he's such a, like, smooth douchebag,
Yeah.
He's real, like, cool, calm, and collected about it.
I feel like, what's that actor? He's in other things. What other movies is he in?
To be honest, I couldn't tell you, but... Oh, wait, that's Toby Leonard Moore is his name.
What else has he been? Just like before we go on, because like he's so good.
He was in John Wick as Victor.
He's really not in a lot of.
No, he's been in more TV shows than movies, but like
He's in Robot Chicken.
Yeah, John Wick was his most like popular thing he's been in.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he confronts Paige and basically kidnaps her. Which, it's Karen's like typical
Wow,
thing.
I skipped over a lot.
Yeah, you did skip over a lot. It's all right though. We're fixing it.
Yeah.
He gives Karen a choice. He sits her down at this table in this like empty garage or factory or whatever it is. There's only one light shining on them. They're sitting at this table, and he places this big ass gun in front of her. And he's like, "If you you can't expose Fist, or I'll kill you." She's like, "No, she has a sense of duty. She needs to do it." He goes, "All right, if you do this, I'm going to kill you, and then I'm going to kill your friends." And she's understandably quite disturbed by that. But then, so Fisk calls Wesley to find out where he is and like the progress of that. Karen, in a badass move, picks up the gun, shoots Wesley right in the chest. And R.I.P. Wesley, one of my favorite characters.
Yeah.
But is a real baller move by Karen.
He needed to die.
He did, unfortunately. But it was good for Karen because she stood up for herself and she saved her friends in a way. Because Wesley would go after them and he would take them down quickly.
Right.
And he would, bring them to light and turn them over to Fisk, basically, if Fisk didn't have him take care of it himself. But Karen, did something really great. She really hurts Fisk here because Wesley is Fisk's most trusted, person.
Right.
He's his assistant, but he trusts him more than anything.
Fisk needs Wesley.
He needs Wesley to function well. Yeah, more or less. So that's how that episode ends. And then we get into episode 12, The Ones We Leave Behind. But before we do that, welcome back. So like we said just before the break, we're starting off with episode 12, The Ones We Leave Behind. So this picks up really soon right after the last episode, the last scene where Karen kills Wesley. And another part, we find out another huge part of Fisk's like power group run by Madame Gao, who runs this huge heroin operation, probably the largest in the city. And Yurik finds this out, gives it to Matt, so Matt, as the Man in Black, goes and tries to dismantle it. But when he gets there, she runs it by slaves, basically.
Right. It's slaves is... Dude, I'd rather be a slave than these people.
Yeah, their conditions are terrible.
It's like the worst I've ever seen.
Yeah, yeah. And there was one, like, Matt gets there and he finds out something really, like, jarring and, like, very surprising is all those slaves are blind.
Yeah.
Yeah. All these slaves are blind, but it's not like they were born blind or anything. There's, like, you can see acid burns on their eyes.
Yeah, they weren't born blind. They were blind intentional
They were blinded.
Yeah.
Like, with chemicals, which Matt, ends up finding that Madame Gao said they were willing to do it so they could do this for her. Not that they probably weren't even given much of a choice, but really they volunteered to do that so they can get their family here and protected. And they volunteered their, being a slave and gave up their
abilities. Are they drugged too? Because the way they move is so zombie-like.
I don't know if they're drugged or it's just like that's how they became due to the conditions that they've been working in and living in.
They just seem emotionally detached from like...
Yeah, it's probably as a result of like however long they've been working for Madame Gao. Like it's something that's probably been instilled in them, or just so many things have been broken in them that they're basically in like a stupefied state.
Right.
And through her heroin packages have a very distinct symbol, which is actually an Easter egg for Iron Fist, which probably coming out next year, and then next year look for it more, which they cast Finn Jones from Game of Thrones in it, which I'm glad that it's actually finally happening because it was in limbo for a while.
Yeah, it was kind of uncertain what was going to happen with that.
But yeah, it's an Easter egg for Iron Fist. Look it up, and Iron Fist is going to be part of the Defender, so expect that next fall though.
Is Iron Fist a series or is it a Netflix movie?
Series.
Okay, good.
They're doing it a series. So Matt actually ends up fighting Madame Gao while destroying her factory. And for an old Chinese lady, she does pretty well against him.
Yeah. That was the one thing I thought was so cool. When she like gets into her fighting pose, I was like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
Like, this is like, again, this is like something that like is so unbelievable, but is so cool. I don't care at all.
Yeah, she looks like she's like 70, if not a little older. Somewhere around 70.
Dude, I would say 80. She's old as hell.
Yeah, she's quite sprightly for her age, and fared very well against Matt before escaping. Yeah. So to Fisk, Wesley's MIA. Some of his guys find him, and Fisk is like heartbroken because he, whether or not they're friends, that's what he more or less was to Fisk.
Yeah,
like his best friend.
It's a weird relationship, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean everything with Fisk is weird.
It's not. It's never normal.
Yeah. So he goes through his phone and realizes that the last person to talk to Wesley, or what he finds, or he thinks was the last person to talk to him, was his mother. He received a call from her, or he called her at the nursing home, like as a relation.
Yeah.
As a result of Karen and Ben going there. So Fisk is like, all right, somebody's taking out the people close to me. They took out Wesley. They went to my mom. They know where my mom is. I gotta keep her safe. I gotta, move her.
Mm-hmm.
Even though she's in that Alzheimer dementia state or whatever, he still feels that she's in danger because people know about her. And, up until this whole point, he's kept himself a secret. So obviously he wants to keep her a secret, even more so. And then he tries and he wants to protect Vanessa, his actual love. She's like, no, I'm not leaving. And which is pretty ballsy on her part.
Yeah, she progressed in a negative way, but I mean, it's great for the show because
by negative you mean on the moral compass.
Yes, absolutely.
He's not talking about in terms of quality.
No, in terms of quality,
she gets stronger, but she's
much more interesting.
More interesting.
Yeah, from the negative choices she makes.
Yeah. The choices she makes are negative, not her performance. Just wanted to clarify that. But she does get better, and she ultimately ends up refusing to leave, and she's like, I'm going to support you. I will help you with this, because she takes his side. Yeah, she knows that he's doing terrible things, but she's with him because she ends up loving him too. And, she's not going to abandon him, especially now with things starting to really unravel.
Right.
She wants to stand strong with him. But he does get his mom away, and he was not able to get out of her like what she talked to Wesley about.
Mm-hmm.
She can't remember, and so he really doesn't know what happened to Wesley, and it's really, really messing with him. And then so Foggy still won't talk to Matt, still not working with him.
Oh yeah.
He's basically taking things on his own and trying to, gets all this information to excuse me, what's his name? Stahl. I think is their friend in the police department, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's the cop that Foggy buys his mom cigars.
Yeah, so he's trying to get it to him in an effort to take things on his own and help it. Let's see. And then Karen is pretty much beside herself after killing Wesley. You know, she's probably never killed somebody before.
Noticeably beside herself.
Yeah. Not handling killing somebody well. Even though her life and her friend's life was in danger, she's not handling it well, understandably, again. You know, and I'm glad that a lot of these characters' actions and the way they feel after them, like what happens to them, is really understandable, and I think that they're doing a really good job with that. Because they're showing, like, they're all human. They all have breaking points. You know, just because it's a comic book show doesn't mean they're going to be like fine about everything.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, because like the emotions are still the same. Like, just because there's extraordinary things happening doesn't mean people don't feel. Yeah, it's that's why I love comic book shows,
especially this one.
Yeah, they just hit it. They just nail it. Like,
and then so she goes to Ben. You got to write this story. You just have to do it. Like it's now or never, pretty much. And so Ben takes it to his editor, and the editor's like, no, you can't do it. You know, and as I understand where his editor is coming from, because Fisk right now is like this golden boy to the public. You know, he's like, he's doing all these good things. You can't really prove any of these things that you're writing about. I don't want to sacrifice my reputation and the papers. Like, if Fisk comes out against it, that obviously Ben will get fired. Ellison's career as the head editor of a huge New York paper is going to, you know, cost him probably the rest of his career. The paper could get shut down, whatever. It'd cause a whole bunch of problems. But Ben takes it that Ellison's just being paid off by Fisk. That Fisk is like, just never put my name in the paper unless it's good. You know, which just shows Ben is paranoid, even though he should be. But Ellison's like, I can't do it. Fires him. And then so Ben takes upon himself in this internet age to write a blog about it. He's going to put it all out online. And we find out that, you know, while he's piecing these things together, Ben has this cork board up, and he's using, which was the method he used to like keep track of things was actually pretty interesting. He used a deck of cards and built it up, you know, from the smaller cards to the face card, the king, as the top, and was writing along those, like, and it kind of fit the levels of not just the corruption, but the people that have come to light. Like, the way they're represented on the cards actually represents their real position, because Fisk is the king. He's at the top. So it was a really good, like, I guess kind of a metaphor or whatever, but you know, it was a good use of an object like that.
Right. Yeah. And when you use objects to represent like what's going on in the story, where like what solidifies people's positions, it's a way to draw you in without telling the story. It's a way to draw you in with visuals.
Yeah.
So like whenever you see things, I appreciate the extra effort they put in, because it's really risky to do something like that, because sometimes it takes you out of it and you're like, wow, thanks, like that's super obvious. But the way they do it in the show, it's very quick. You can almost miss it.
Yeah.
If you don't really if you're not really into it. But then like at the same time, like you're so impressed by how they did it.
Right.
It's a fact, it's so simple.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you watch movies or TV shows, they'll do this like huge analogy, and you're like, that's way too perfect for real life. Like, sorry.
Yeah, exactly. So then it turns out Fisk does have an informant in the bulletin. It just wasn't Ellison. And the informant tells Fisk, he's like, yeah, it was Ben Ehrlich who visited your mom. So Fisk breaks into his apartment while Ben's like typing away. You see this huge shadowy figure that you were talking about too early.
Way too early. Like about an hour and a half too early between episodes.
Yeah. Breaks in and then just demolishes Ben. Like, demolish is probably the best word, because he goes off on Ben. Fucking brutal again. You know, Fisk is...
He's not an efficient killer.
He's not an efficient killer. He's not, you know, clean. He is brutal and doesn't care about the messes he leaves behind.
He knows he's gonna get away with it.
Yeah, and while he's sort of more or less a man-child, it just shows throughout this season it shows that he's a really good manipulator, really good planner, and he's strong as hell.
Yeah, his physical strength is something to be admired of, just because he's definitely not a good fighter.
No, it's just he's strong.
He's very strong. He's a brute force.
Exactly. Matt is a better fighter, but he's not as strong as Fist.
Much better fighter.
Yeah.
Matt is very tactical and accurate with his hits. Like he does flashy moves, but it's not without reason.
Mm-hmm.
Like those spin kicks he does in the air. If someone's about to shoot at him and he does those side flip spin stomp down, it's because he's dodging something at the same time.
Right.
Whereas Fist just kind of just runs up to you.
Yeah, he's kind of like a gorilla.
Yeah.
It's Donkey Kong pretty much. But yeah, he brutalizes Ben. So R.I.P. Ben. And then that brings us to the season finale, episode 13, which is aptly titled Daredevil. So you finally get the name in the episode. And it starts off with Matt and Karen attending Ulrich's funeral. Because he really doesn't have... Well, he does have other people, but, he's kind of burned a lot of bridges.
His wife's there.
But she's not really there. She's whatever she suffers from is, she's still kind of out of it.
But she still is understands. She was crying at the funeral.
Yeah, you're right. So Matt didn't, wasn't too familiar with him. Matt saw him as, when he was the Man in Black persona, but Karen got close to him.
Yeah.
They developed a relationship. So, and Karen's still dealing with killing Wesley, so now this is another huge blow to her. This girl is just getting destroyed this season.
Yeah, I never really, I never realized how much she just goes through.
She goes through a lot.
Yeah, she wakes up with blood on her hands and a dead guy in front of her. She does end up actually killing somebody.
Yeah. And
she just gets...
This man she trusts who was trying to help her...
Dead.
Gets brutally murdered. She goes through a lot. And in season 2, she goes through a lot more, too. So they're just, pounding on her.
Emotionally.
Emotionally. Yeah, not physically. Throughout the season. Poor her. But then Fist finds out that Leland, Owsley, and Madame Gao were the ones who tried poisoning Vanessa. They were responsible for it because they saw her as a distraction, which she kind of was because she took Fist's attention away from the master plan.
Yeah.
Because he fell in love with her, and you're warned, even the constantly told the superheroes, you can't fall for someone, you can't have these sort of relationships in your life because they're going to distract you.
Mm-hmm.
And Fisk falls into that trap. While Matt technically hasn't. I mean, he has his friends, but he doesn't have any romantic sort of distractions.
At least not yet.
Yeah, at least not yet. So then, hold on, I lost my train of thought.
It happens.
Yeah.
It happens a lot.
Yeah.
I'm not just saying you, but both of us.
Yeah. So, yeah, Fisk finds this out, confronts Owsley, fucking confronted him. I think it was in a parking garage or something, this high-rise parking garage.
Yes, it was.
And he throws him down the elevator shaft.
Dude, that was awesome.
It was.
He deserved it.
He did deserve it. I mean, as far as people deserving to die, but it's just the way Fisk, kills these people is crazy. Every time it gets more and more brutal and just fierce. All his rage is coming to full steam right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, I would never want to be in this guy's way in the first place. But at this point, even if I was Daredevil, I would not want to get in his way.
No.
But obviously he has to. Turns out that Owsley was, hiding Hoffman, who has a lot of dirt on Fisk as it was, and Fisk was not too happy about that, so he's trying to get him back because he can take down Fisk basically with the information he has.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, Matt and Foggy reconcile after a few episodes because they need to come and build this case against Fisk. And it's really important for them because their only actual case that they actually took on that went through was successful was Karen. They had the one older Spanish woman who was trying to be forced out of her apartment that they tried saving, but she ended up being killed. So this, especially for two brand new lawyers with their firm of two people trying to take down this huge public powerful figure. So obviously they can't do it without one another. And Foggy appreciates Matt trying to do it a legal way.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least Matt basically tells him that's his plan, but it's not. It's not. It's not. So Matt finds Hoffman, gets some information from him.
Matt finds Hoffman.
Wow, shout out to Matt Hoffman. There
Matt
we go.
Hoffman.
That was completely unintentional.
That was so unintentional.
And then, so he convinces him to testify against Fisk. He does that, and federal agents start taking down Fisk and his team and his co-conspirators. But Fisk gets away because he does get arrested. But this SWAT team that he paid off gets him out.
Yeah.
They stop him in this huge motorcade. But Matt comes in to interrupt him, and finally we see the Daredevil suit.
And it's pretty good.
I think it's good. See, a lot of people had an initial negative reaction to it.
It's not
because it's not classic Daredevil.
It's not, but it's like, dude, that costume wouldn't work on film.
Well, yeah, you saw how it worked in the Daredevil movie.
Yeah,
it looked terrible.
It looked so stupid, and
it looked like he was just wearing a fetish suit, pretty much.
Yeah,
all leather. It's not practical.
Yeah, that's the thing. A lot of people like to rip on the X-Men movies for having crappy costumes, but it's like, dude, you can't do those costumes on film. It works better in comic books because it's a comic book.
Exactly.
And bright colors help the story.
Yeah,
and it also gives it helps you see the characters in dark lighting. That's the reason. That's the reason why Wolverine is yellow and blue.
Exactly.
It makes sense in that medium. You can't do that on film. It looks stupid. People would laugh at me if I was trying to fight crime in that.
It looks stupid, and it's also just not practical in a protection sense. If you've seen the X-Men Apocalypse trailer, they have uniforms, but they're body armor suits.
Right.
That they're using against Apocalypse because they provide, protection, a good amount of protection. I mean, granted, they're going against a much different type of enemy than Matt, but Matt, it makes sense that he has this suit of armor, and he needs it because he's gotten his ass kicked as much ass as he kicks. He's almost died a bunch, and you saw what Fisk did to him the last time they met. He fucking brutalized him, almost killed him.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the most indestructible armor. It's not Iron Man armor, but it's armor, and it's going to help him.
It's something better than normal.
It's going to help him keep him alive. It's better than that, padded T-shirt he was wearing, or long sleeve shirt, hockey pads, whatever. And so I didn't look at it negatively. I liked it. Was it a perfect design? No, I think the suit design in season 2 is better. But for a season 1 suit, the suit's never going to be perfect.
Yeah, I think it's good.
And if you look at any superhero suit, their suits change as as time seasons goes on. Or movies go on. Look at Captain America's suit in the Avengers.
Yeah, he never has the same exact suit.
Well, I mean, just going from his first suit in his first solo movie, Captain America: The First Avenger, to his suit in the Avengers. His suit in the Avengers was terrible. It was ugly as hell.
But I liked it because it made sense why it would look like that. Is because Agent Coulson was such a huge fan, and he wanted.
Yeah, he nerded out and made it really geeky, but it's just ugly.
But it's ugly, but it's how it looks like in the comic books, but I don't mind in that aspect. I don't mind it because Agent Coulson is supposed to represent how we are in that movie.
Yeah.
So, like the fact that he did that's something we would do.
Yeah, it's just funny because
it was
suit,
cool. It was how they did it.
his suit in Captain America: The First Avenger was more practical than that one is. But then you look at his suit in Winter Soldier, and it's got style, but it's really practical. It's really like bulky. It's got like a lot of protection and stuff. And Captain America is a super soldier, so he can take a lot of physical punishment. He could do it certainly better than Matt, but he still needs all that protection and needs armor. And his, that's his third iteration of his suit, although he goes back to the original one. But it's practical and it looks fine, and it took another iteration. And then in Civil War, he's going to have another suit. Well, in Age of Ultron, he had another suit. In Civil War, he's going to have another one. Just like how Iron Man has different mock armors.
Yeah, they go from like Mach 1, or Mark 1, Mark 2, and then like in Iron Man 3, it's like Mark 48 or something like that.
Yeah, so his suit changes constantly. And Thor's more or less stayed the same, but like even on The Flash, Barry's suit has changed a couple times. From the initial design to the second season. Like, he basically had two different suits in the first season, not hugely different. And then the suit that he wears now is not incredibly different, but there's differences. It's upgraded.
Subtle differences.
It's subtle differences. Same thing happened on Arrow. And, any comic book show, that's how it's going to be. Any comic book movie, it's how it's going to be. Even in, look at the Dark Knight trilogy. There's an overall similar style in each movie to his suit, but there's differences and there's upgrades.
Right.
And, the first Batsuit didn't turn out well. If you go back to Batman's first suit.
In Batman Begins.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's cool, but it's not practical because he can't turn his head.
Exactly. So, it's just a first design. It's going to change. It's going to get better. You got to be understanding of that.
Yeah, exactly.
But I did like the suit. Was it beautiful? No. Was it practical? Yes. It makes sense. I get why it looks like the way it is.
Yeah, no, I like it. It didn't take anything away from me. Like,
right.
It didn't add or take away. It was just like, that's Daredevil.
Yeah,
there we
it's
go.
Something he needed. And, it's still, he has the horns on it, so he looks like a devil. Mm-hmm. And you just got to accept it. So I didn't really understand or, follow through with the negative backlash against it. I got right past it. I was like, all right, that's going to help him.
Yep.
Which is what the design was. That's it. And so we finally see it in action. The armor made by him, for him by Potter. And then Matt and Fisk get into this huge fight. And I thought this fight was awesome. In an alley. And I thought this fight was awesome.
It was great. It was definitely, it was like for seeing so many fights where either Matt like, kicks a bunch of bad guys' ass, or he fights someone who's like physically like can match him, or like or someone who's a good fighter and like they have like a cool like flip tricks and stuff like that, or someone who physically matches him. It was different because it was essentially someone who's trained to fight and someone who's just brute force, like going at it.
Yeah.
Like Matt gets picked up.
Yeah.
Because he's actually not that big of a guy at all.
No, not really. He's probably about like really my size. I'm not a big guy. But yeah, it's two completely different fighting styles going against each other. It's not like Matt fighting Nobu where they both got like a martial arts type fighting. Or like Captain America against Winter Soldier where they both have the same fighting style. Mm-hmm. This is two different types of forces going against each other. And I thought, aside from being so well choreographed, like all the fights in the show are, right, which is like one of their biggest strengths, it's a really good contrast, not only of their fighting skills, but their personalities.
Yeah.
I think. And I think it was excellently done. And Matt ends up beating Fisk, which must have felt really fucking good for Matt. And Fisk gets arrested, finally. And Vanessa finally leaves. So Fisk got her wanting to leave to get protected. She finally gets that wish. And then Nelson, Foggy and Matt get their, not just their first big case, but a massive case,
huge
massive win. Because they get Fisk convicted and put in jail. like people are going to take note of that because these two guys who had one case that they won now locked away, this super powerful guy. So they're going to be like, oh, well, maybe these guys aren't jokes. Maybe they're more than just avocados at law.
They're pretty serious lawyers.
They're pretty serious lawyers, and they are really good at what they do, and you see a lot more of that, particularly of Foggy in season 2.
I would argue that Foggy's the better lawyer.
Well, he admits they're better at different things.
Yeah.
They really are better at different things. They complement each other well. That's why they're a great team of lawyers, other than being great friends. It's debatable, but I think they're both really good lawyers.
I gotta finish season 2, and then I'll have a consensus
But yeah,
of what I think.
Foggy's strengths and what he's better at than Matt comes to you get to see that in season 2 because of this massive court case that they're a part of, which just watch and find out. And then finally, Daredevil earns his name. He's no longer the Man in Black. The papers are calling him Daredevil.
Or the Devil in Hell Kitchen.
Or the Devil in Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah, but Daredevil too. It's both. But yeah, I'm glad it wasn't like right away. They built up towards it, and it was good. The payoff was great.
Yeah, I agree. And that concludes that season. And geez, that was one of the best seasons of television I've ever seen.
I think it's the best first season of a TV show I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really deny that.
Yeah, I still think Breaking Bad might be one of the best shows I've ever seen overall because that show is finished, so I can say that.
Mm-hmm. Their first season was not great.
The first season, it was cool.
Good.
It was good,
but it was not great.
Season 2 through 5 is like perfect.
Yeah,
and but like season 1 of Daredevil, it's like, dude, like that never happens. Like,
no, first seasons for a lot of shows are not.
I mean, The Flash's first season was awesome.
Was really solid, but you look at The Office and Parks and Recreation, like two, very popular shows in recent memory.
Comedies have a hard time finding their spot in the first season.
Their first seasons were terrible.
Parks and Rec's first season is like not even funny. Like I actually skipped it was like 6 episodes. I watched 1 through 3 and I was like, screw this. I just went to 2, and I went from 2 on.
Yeah, and that's how I recommend that to anybody. But even like Seinfeld, their first season wasn't good.
Oh, dude, their first season's awful.
But then like. Law and Order's first few seasons of each of their spin-offs too, and like NCIS, which is now at its 300th episode or something like that.
Dude, that show, I don't understand how that show just keeps going.
It's crazy the shit they still come up with. Same with Law and Order, but
like there's definitely some things that definitely repeat themselves.
It's inevitable. But that happens in any show.
But like The Simpsons, like how many times can Marge and Homer's marriage be like on the fritz?
Yeah, but like to get that more like. Show a dramatic side and something with action in it. Even their first seasons, as great as they gotten and all the awards and shit they've won, they still weren't that good. The Flash, Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Ash vs. the Evil Dead, and Fargo are probably the best first seasons of a show that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
That's a good mix because got like. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., if we're going back to comic books, their first half of their first season was bad.
It was so...
It was bad.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. I love Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but their first 15 episodes or whatever, not good.
Yeah. That's the one thing that television's never been able to like fully conquer in general is the first season like blues. It's... Again, Daredevil. I like there's been shows that proven that yes, you can have a very good first season.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like Dexter had a great first season.
It did.
It happens, but I don't expect shows to be good at the first season. I don't even watch shows when the first season is. I like if unless people tell me the first season is great. But like I know that show Ballers. I watched a little bit of it, and it didn't really get good until like the last 3 episodes I heard. Mm. So like that's a show I kind of wanted to get into, but
even like Game of Thrones, I hated the first season. I thought it was so boring.
I don't think that.
Like I struggled through it. I mean, I know you don't like it, but
yeah,
Game of Thrones is the one one of, if not the most popular show in the
Oh,
world.
I understand, and I know it's a good show. Like
It is a good show.
Yeah,
And like I struggled through that first season because I didn't think it was that good, and I thought it was boring. Although The Walking Dead, they had 6 episodes, I thought their first season was the best they did.
Season 1 and 2 are so. Season 2, I know you don't like The Walking Dead, but
I like season 2 a lot. Season 3 is where it lost me.
season 4 is where it's lost me. I like season 3, but after season 4, I was like, all right, this show, I'm done with the show. But now everyone says season 6 is the best season out of all of them, and I'm like, I might just give it another shot.
But the point is, like, although Netflix series before have had good first seasons, really only House of Cards and Orange is the New Black had great first seasons.
Orange is the New Black, I did watch the first season, and that is good.
Yeah, so like Netflix knows what it's doing. Marvel obviously knows what they're doing, because Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. after their first 15 episodes or whatever took off and has not stopped since. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. right now is awesome, and it literally gets better every episode. And it just showed like Marvel learned from their mistakes. I mean, Netflix also knows a lot of what they're doing. Plus, they hired some top-notch writers and directors for this season, and it carried over to Jessica Jones, carried over their second season, and I have full faith it's going to carry over to Luke Cage, Iron Fist, and the Defenders.
Mm-hmm.
And like that whole season blew me away, and season 2 of Daredevil blew me away even more. It's such an excellent show that I can rewatch it a million times.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah. I'd give it a 10 out of 10 that season.
Yeah, I would too.
Honestly.
Yeah, and it's just like, again, like if you really want to if we wanted to nitpick, we could probably find something like inconsistent.
Yeah,
but it's
like, really it's not 100% perfect, but it's damn near perfect.
But what is though?
Exactly.
Like
nothing is fully perfect.
Yeah.
Even The Flash is one of my favorite shows, if not my favorite currently, which I think Daredevil season 2 pushed that aside, but it's still not perfect. There's a lot of problems with it, but I still love the fuck out of it.
Yeah, and also too, but like that's hard, and it's your TV shows are never perfect because there's so many different writers and so many different directors that come in.
Right. Yeah, it's not like usually a different director is directing every single episode of a show.
Yeah.
And like if you look through the credits, you'll notice that there are a lot of directors who come back multiple times. Like Rian Johnson directed 3, 4, or 5 episodes of Breaking Bad, and he directed some of the best ones, including Ozymandias. And then, like even the director of Ash vs. the Evil Dead, Daredevil season 1, I think there was, looks like only.
I wonder why shows do that. They have
repeat.
multiple directors for each episode.
Scheduling, production, setup. Because there's parts that they're probably filming like 3 episodes at a time, depending on how they set it up. So like, if they have, like, I'm sure they do it in Daredevil too. Like they'll have.
I see. So like certain scenes are being filmed like
for one episode, and another is getting filmed for another episode, depending on how they break it up.
Right. So like this. So like the scene with Ben and Wilson Fisk, where Fisk kills him, they could have been shot at the same time as as Matt Murdock fighting a bunch of bad guys in another episode. All right,
it streamlines production. I mean, there are shows where they've had very few, but like have had a director direct all the episodes. Like True Detective season 1. Cary Fukunaga directed every episode. I mean, it's 8 episodes, but still, you don't really see it too often.
R.I.P. Stephen King's It reboot with him.
With him, it's still happening though.
Yeah. Okay. So R.I.P. Stephen King's reboot.
But yeah, it's just a typical thing. But a lot of shows have repeat directors, and
doesn't Joel Schumacher come back for a lot of House of Cards episodes?
I think so. Robin Wright also directed a bunch, especially in season 4. So she starred in and directed multiple episodes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and she did a really great job. But yeah, so and it puts like, while it's still the same show, same writers, there's usually a different lead writer for each episode, so it works because you get different tones, different perspectives, and you get the same thing with the different directors.
Mm-hmm.
But season finale, and there's the showrunner. Sometimes the showrunner will, like Vince Gilligan directed a bunch of Breaking Bad too. He didn't direct every episode. He directed a bunch.
But he's a reliable director.
Yeah. He also wrote a bunch. He may not have been the head writer on every episode, but he's still in the writing room. Like, that's usually how it is. Like, there's a writer's room, and then if you pitch an idea that gets accepted, they're like, okay, you take the lead on this.
Yeah.
And that happens, and they're usually the ones who get, like, the top billing of the credit. And, like, Vince Gilligan was a showrunner for Breaking Bad. He also directed and wrote for Breaking Bad. And then Stephen DeKnight was the showrunner of season 1 of Daredevil. And he also wrote and directed for the show, particularly the season finale.
Right.
So it happens, it's just, it works. And, like, The Flash has a million different directors per episode. Like, Kevin Smith is working on an episode right now.
Is it the premiere from the month break or no?
No, he's directing an episode that's going to come out, I think, in May.
Dude, The Flash is so long.
Well, they've had 2 breaks.
Yeah, that's dude,
and it's 23 episodes.
Oh God, stop taking breaks. Like,
yeah, I mean, the production works. However, I don't know, but yeah. So if you haven't watched this show yet, I mean, I'm assuming if you're listening this far into the podcast, you've seen the show. But like Chris Daniello, Kramer, fucking just started watching season 1.
What a
To his credit, he's got 3 kids and 2 jobs, but still.
All right, well,
if
you gotta drop something. The family or the jobs.
Yeah, drop the kids.
Yeah.
Drop the kids.
No, actually, don't drop your kids. Caleb's cool. I like Caleb.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't met the other 2. Caleb's cool.
I mean, the other 2, they're babies.
Caleb is better at Super Smash Brothers than Evan.
Oh, dude, it's so funny.
But if you have friends who haven't watched this, turn the show onto them because yes, it's a comic book show, but it's grounded in reality, so it's like also a drama action show.
Yeah,
which we appreciate it for, because it's not like
they take it very seriously.
Yeah, and that's like a lot of people who may not have been comic book fans like Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy for kind of the same reason.
Dude, like my dad, who just doesn't like comic books, like likes the Christopher Nolan Batman movies.
Yeah, it has a broad appeal. And like The Flash might be a little harder because it's very comic booky.
Yeah, that's
a different story.
I love the Flash TV show, but that is a show for comic book fans.
Yeah, this has
or fans of like that. Like
this has a more broad appeal because it functions well as a comic book show, as a drama, and as an action series.
Yes,
so I highly recommend this. If you've seen this episode this season and haven't watched Jessica Jones, get on that and definitely check out season 2. We will be doing episodes on that in blocks again, just because they're all released. We're not going to do it the same way we do The Flash because The Flash is a weekly release.
Yeah, I like doing multiple episodes per episode. It just, I mean, and also reviewers do it too, especially with the Netflix series. They just review the season. I mean, like we can do it in like 2 episodes or whatever. Yeah,
but yeah, we'll be doing episodes on that.
Because when we did it like per episode back in the day, it was just like
that's why we never finished it.
Yeah, that's why we never finished it. Yeah, like this is so much better.
And especially now since we're going twice a week, we're able to do Daredevil and something else, or Flash and something else.
Yeah.
So yeah, listen to that. If you haven't listened to our Pixar episode, listen to that.
Also,
look out for the couch review.
Yeah. So the Pixar episode of the couch review, I gotta explain. The software trouble I was having the other time, I'm having again. I'm going to try and fix it. I actually feel like I solved the problem. I've been meaning to tell you that. So I'm going to try to edit it tomorrow. And if I still can't do it, then we're just going to reshoot it just for a shorter length. But yeah, that's coming. More couch review episodes are coming as well, as along with, twice a week Awesome Sunday show. So just in case you can never get tired of me and Pat, don't worry. You can still hear all of our opinions.
Yeah. Yeah, and the other episodes we're going to do that are going to be released during the midweek are going to be more broad. They're not going to be comic book related, really, unless there's some like breaking news or whatever.
We have a special episode coming up pretty soon.
We do. Although we're going to save it for this release number, but it's all right.
It's fine. Well, technically it still is.
I mean, we can, but
yeah,
whatever. Yeah, it's going to be very funny and informative.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's something that like here's a hint. It's something that Cameron Diaz, Sylvester Stallone,
Jackie Chan,
and who else?
You got to find out.
Oh yeah. So
We'll just give you 3 names.
Those 3 actors, they all have something in common
other than being famous actors.
Yeah.
So yeah, look out for that. And if there's stuff you want us to talk about, let us know. If you want to come on, but not Evan, let us know, and we'll work it out. Thank you for listening.
Yes.
You have anything else to add?
I don't know. All I know is good luck to Evan's baseball podcast.
Yeah, if that ever happens. But yeah, thanks for listening. Let us know what you thought about season 1 of Daredevil. Let us know what you think about season 2. Binge the fuck out of it because it's amazing. Check out Jessica Jones. If maybe at some point we'll cover Jessica Jones. Definitely before the next season releases.
We might just do an episode of what we feel about this season.
Yeah,
I feel like that's just better.
Something. Yeah, we'll do something.
We'll figure it out.
Months. Yeah, but thanks guys. Oh, follow us on Twitter at Awesome Sun Show.
And also you can follow us individually. I'm at Lesson Connor.
I'm at Rick Pat Mick.
And just please remember to like, share, subscribe, and comment. Tell your friends. To retweet Awesome Sunday Show tweets, which we might have like 5 tweets out there.
Yeah, whatever it is. Even if you don't give a shit about the show,
dude.
just
like
do it.
Even if you hate us, just do something.
Yeah.
I can't imagine anybody who hates us.
I could think of.
There's definitely people that hate me.
Well, I'm sure there are people who hate me. But yeah, just do it anyway because you're probably a nice person.
Yeah, you are nice.
Yeah. All right, guys. See ya.
Peace.